Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Anil Thomas. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. At Camp David, United States, South Korea and Japan agreed to deepen military ties, condemn dangerous and aggressive behavior by China in the South China Sea. Thousands flee huge wildfire in capital of Canada's Northwest Territories. Fresh fires spark evacuation orders in British Columbia. World Athletic Championship all set to kick off today in the Hungarian capital Budapest. Neeraj Chopra leads India's chances in the 28-member contingent. The leaders of United States, South Korea and Japan agreed to evaluate cooperation between their countries during a trilateral meeting at President Joe Biden's secluded hilltop retreat on Friday. It took new diplomacy between South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida to get to this point. And particular concern over North Korea's missile testing and what they call dangerous and aggressive actions from China in the South China Sea. DD India correspondent Caroline Malone has more from Washington, D.C.
It was an unprecedented day at Camp David, the US leaders' diplomatic retreat reserved for events of the highest importance. South Korea's President Yoon and Japan's Prime Minister Kishida agreeing to new levels of cooperation with President Biden to set up a hotline and commit to consulting each other on issues of importance. Of particular concern to all three leaders, as referenced in a joint statement, is China's dangerous and aggressive actions in the South China Sea and continued ballistic missile testing from North Korea. It took a long time to get to this point, with South Korea and Japan only recently able to resolve issues stemming from Tokyo's military occupation of its neighbour in the early 20th century. Going forward, the three leaders have agreed to hold trilateral meetings annually to share information on ballistic missile defense and new economic and energy security initiatives, including warnings on supply chain disruptions. US officials say it's not a formal defense alliance and not about excluding other nations, but this unusually united front between Japan, South Korea and the US may act as a deterrent to future provocation in the Indo-Pacific. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Well, following the summit, Japan is hoping it can now begin its controversial plan to discharge treated radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. Tokyo needs to dispose of more than 1 million tons of water used to cool the wrecked Daiichi nuclear plant at Fukushima, and reports suggest it may start doing so as soon as this month. Chris Gilbert has more.
Well, Japan is hoping that this trilateral summit is the last bridge it needs to cross to begin the discharge of treated water into the Pacific Ocean. It has the support of the IAEA, the rubber stamp from the International Atomic Watchdog, which says that the plan is up to international safety standards. It has spoken to the fishers in Fukushima who have suffered brand damage since the meltdown and are concerned about the ongoing impact of the water discharge. It has taken its pitch to the Pacific Island Forum, all the countries there that are concerned about the discharge, trying to soothe those ruffled feathers with messages of how safe the water is. And finally, there's South Korea, a country which still maintains a ban on food imports from Fukushima, a country which still sees mass protests frequently against the discharge project, but yet a country which at the executive level, at the presidential level, has recently warmed ties with at least the government of Japan and Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister. This is good news for the US. It wants wants these two countries working together despite all the bad blood that they share, going all the way back to Japan's at times very brutal rule of the Korean Peninsula all the way up to World War II. This has been a sticking point for previous administrations. It is not a sticking point for this administration. It is an opportunity for Washington to get the two of them working together to meet its interests in the Indo-Pacific region before administrations change and the whole thing may come undone. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo, reporting for DD India.
Well, army chiefs of a West African bloc say they are ready to intervene and restore peace in Niger. The ECOWAS has activated a standby force following last month's coup.
A sternly worded message from the army chiefs in West Africa. They have criticized and accused the junta of not wanting to engage politically and diplomatically.
They are pretending, that, now they are ready for talks. But even as they are telling us that they are ready for talks, they are still seeking reasons to justify an unjustifiable coup d'etat.
The army chiefs have also emphasized their commitment to reinstating constitutional order. They maintain that if peaceful efforts fail, they are prepared to intervene.
Let no one be in doubt that if everything else fails, the valiant forces of West Africa, both the military and the civilian components, are ready to answer to the call of duty.
Meanwhile, in a tragic turn of events, at least 36 Nigerian soldiers have lost their lives in two separate attacks. The battles occurred when they fought off armed gangs in the northern central state of the country. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman met Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullah in Jeddah as part of his visit to the kingdom. The meeting comes a day after Amir Abdullah declared ties between the countries were on the right track following talks with his Saudi counterpart Prince Faisal bin Farhan. Mohammed bin Salman is the kingdom's de facto ruler and has pushed to reorient Saudi foreign policy in recent years. After the meeting, Iran's news agency reported that Abdullahian as saying the de facto Saudi ruler had accepted his invitation to visit Tehran. Well, now let's take a look at some other stories making news around the world. A protest broke out in Pakistan's commercial capital Karachi on Friday. The Pakistani traders protested against the rising petrol and electricity prices. Earlier this week, Pakistan announced a hike in petrol and high-speed diesel prices, a second such hike in this month. Meanwhile, caretaker Information Minister Murtuza Solangi also said that the government is incapable to reduce costs due to an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. In a horrifying incident from northwest England, where a nurse who was accused of killing 7 newborn babies and trying to kill another 6 in the neonatal unit of a hospital she worked was declared guilty. Lucy Ledby, aged 33, murdered 5 baby boys and 2 baby girls. She also used to attack other newborns during her work shifts in 2015 and 16. Peruvian officials are looking for clues leading them to the cause of the death of a 4-meter whale that got stranded on the Peruvian coast. While the authorities are collecting samples from the sea creature to study more about the death, locals have been warned not to go near it. Local media has also reported that the witnesses say that the injuries around the whale's body and tail. Getting a running experience of a lifetime, few runners took part in the summer marathon at the North Pole. Participants travelled on an icebreaker for 6 days from Norway's Slavot to reach to the starting point for the marathon. though runners had to struggle with the soft snow and slush as they ran across ice approximately a meter thick and in temperatures around 2 degrees Celsius. It still did not lessen the enthusiasm of the competitors. Well, still to come on this edition of DD India. Canada battles deadly wildfires. Fresh fires spark evacuation orders in British Columbia. And the World Athletic Championship gets underway in Budapest today.
Swagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Anil Thomas. The Writers Guild of America says that it is evaluating a counter-proposal from television and film studios that could see progress in the labor stoppage that has now stretched on for more than 100 days. But big questions remain for how many of the writers, such as how to make enough money from the increasing powerful streaming platforms. Ira Spitzer has more from New York.
It's been a summer of discontent for film and television writers and actors in the U.S. For months, they've been out on the streets, rain or shine, in Hollywood and here in New York, bringing productions to a standstill.
You know, the studios have really gone overboard with their insults and how they've been treating every single one of us, from the actor in front, from the writers.
The Writers Guild of America calls it an existential crisis. As streaming services have brought massive industry changes, writers and actors say their pay structure hasn't changed with the times. A big sticking point, residuals. The payments issued, for example, when an old movie airs on cable TV that don't pay as much from streaming. But despite streaming recently overtaking cable television for audience size in the U.S., studios haven't really been able to turn a profit with it so far. Disney recently announced another $500 million of losses from streaming in the second quarter, and the entertainment giant has lost more than $11 billion on streaming since 2019 when it launched its Disney Plus service. In spite of the recent success of the films Barbie and Oppenheimer, box office sales are still struggling to recover in the wake of the pandemic and the rise of streaming.
You have this really odd situation where every side has a problem. The studios have been losing a fortune trying to compete in streaming with Netflix. And there are fewer shows being made, and because theatrical exhibition has not rebounded anywhere close to what it was before, there's not enough money to go around or eyeballs to go around for either side to get what they need.
One thing the strike could do is increase the market for global productions, for example on Netflix, which has found big success with some international programming like the South Korean show Squid Game. But the issue of how to get consumers to pay for content and the content creators, wherever they are, remains. As the strike drags on, things aren't likely to get much easier for anyone.
When they shoot a season in advance. So there's a lot of stuff in the can that they can show now and get away with it. So we might be stuck for another half year, another season anyway. It's really frightening. It's horrible.
Recent meetings between the studios and the unions could be a sign of progress. But for now, this bitter labor dispute marches on. Ira Spetzer reporting in New York for DD India.
While health authorities in Kuwait have officially announced the detection of the latest variant of COVID-19 within the country. Identified as the EG5 subvariant of the Omicron variant, this strain has been rapidly circulating in the United States and the United Kingdom since May. While the health risk associated with this new strain is currently assessed as low, its rapid transmission is raising concerns of a potential surge in infections. Well, it's now a race against time in Canada's Northwest Territories. Fire officials are warning of a challenging 24 hours ahead. DD India's Tony Waterman reports.
Fire officials in Yellowknife say the blaze is now less than 15 kilometers northwest of the territorial capital and that it could reach the outskirts of the city as soon as Saturday. Special teams have been brought in to cut down trees close to the city in a bid to slow the spread. But at this point, all 20,000 residents are being evacuated and under the glow of an ominous red sky. Some are fleeing by plane. Upwards of 2,000 people are expected to be airlifted out of the city on Friday. Others are taking to the roads, but conditions are extremely dangerous. There is thick smoke and some roads are flanked by flames. There are more than 230 active wildfires burning across the Northwest Territories, and residents in other towns like Hay River and Fort Smith have also been told to get out. Meanwhile, officials in British Columbia are warning residents to brace for, quote, aggressive and unpredictable fire conditions on Friday and Saturday. There are more than 360 fires burning in British Columbia, more than any other Canadian province. But with strong winds and lightning expected Friday and Saturday, officials fear that these flames could spread and grow quickly. This has already been the worst wildfire season in Canadian history, with nearly 14 million hectares being burned, and experts say that climate change is playing a role in this devastation, with drier than normal conditions setting up tinderbox-like conditions. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Well, wildfires rage on in Canada and the United States. Thousands evacuated as a state of emergency is declared early on Friday in and around Kelowna, British Columbia. These satellite images show the drifting smoke from fires moving across North America. This week, there has been more than 1,000 active wildfires in Canada alone. This makes conditions miserable for the residents, and wildfires are not unusual in Canada's western provinces. But this year, the eastern province has witnessed out-of-control fires too. Parts of Southern California were put under a tropical storm watch for the first time, as Hurricane Hilary is predicted to hit the region as early as Sunday. Hilary's heavy rainfall is expected to hit California, Nevada and neighboring Arizona following a record-breaking summer heat wave. Hilary could dump more than a year worth of rain in parts of 3 states, California, Nevada and Arizona. Because of the threat, parts of California face a rare high risk for excessive rainfall. It would be the first tropical storm to hit California in more than 80 years. Before the heat wave, about a dozen atmospheric rivers had battered Southern California, causing flooding, landslides and road closures as authorities ordered thousands to evacuate. India's third lunar exploration mission Chandrayaan-3 has shared new images of the moon as it completes its first deboost operation. The lander has now slowed to a lower orbit, bringing it one step closer to landing on the surface. DD India's Abhishek Bose has more.
India inching closer to achieving its lunar dreams. These are the latest visuals of moon shared by Chandrayaan-3's lander Vikram. The photos show a close-up of rocks and craters on the moon's surface. Lander Vikram successfully underwent the first of its 2 deboosting operations to enter a lower lunar orbit. Once deboosting begins, the lander enters into an automation mode. It will undergo its second deboosting operation on Sunday to enter a much closer orbit, bringing it just 30 kilometers from the moon's surface. From there, the lander will finally attempt a soft landing on the unexplored south polar region of the moon next Wednesday. After this, India will be the 4th country to make a soft landing on the moon after the US, the former Soviet Union and China. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
Well, Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft adjusted its orbit on Friday as it prepares to land near the south pole of the moon. Scientists believe there are significant quantities of frozen water on the moon's south pole that could support human presence there in the future. Let's take a look at some other stories making news today. A joint finance health ministers meeting will begin today as a focus event on the G20 health ministers meeting. During the G20 health ministers meeting, there will be a joint session of the G20 and side events. As part of the present G20 conference in Gandhinagar in Gujarat, India and the World Health Organization will launch the global initiative on digital health today. Air Tanzania says it's calling for more business for its cargo flights to Mumbai, which were launched last month. The company CEO says that the national flag carrier has also closed deals with Indian tourism agencies in order to tap into India's market of over 1 billion people. DD India correspondent Daniel Kijo has more from Dar es Salaam.
Slowly but surely, Air Tanzania is expanding its services. It recently acquired a Boeing 767 freighter at a cost of $37 million. It's been flying passengers to Mumbai since last year, catering to Tanzania's large Indian diaspora. The CEO says the focus is now to increase cargo volumes.
Kati ya makampuni kubwa 10 ya India,
we have closed an agreement with one of India's top 10 pharmaceutical companies. The deal entails transporting mostly medicines that are used in Africa. They will land in Tanzania and then be distributed.
Apart from Mumbai, Air Tanzania's cargo plane currently flies to Kinshasa, Dubai and Lubumbashi. The demand for Air Tanzania's cargo services remains high. John Lupembe has used Air Tanzania's cargo services to ship commodities into Kinshasa.
As for now, we are sure that the service is available. It's a reliable service. The rates are very competitive. There should not be anyone to worry about moving their cargoes.
India and Tanzania share rich historical and economic ties. India is Tanzania's 3rd largest trading partner, with bilateral trade of $4.5 billion in the year to June 2022.
This Air Tanzania 767-300 Boeing is now leaving Tanzania and flying out with cargo. The Air Tanzania team says it has the capacity to carry up to 54 tons of cargo.
India's main exports to Tanzania are refined petroleum, packaged medicines, motorcycles, and industrial equipment. Air Tanzania is now aiming to take business deeper into India by signing interline agreements with the country's domestic airlines.
For instance, passengers flying from New Delhi will get their tickets there. They will be flown by visitors till Mumbai, and then from there we will pick them and fly them to Dar es Salaam. Same for people flying into India from Dar. We drop them at Mumbai and they will get flights via either Air India or Vistara.
The routes into India are part of the airline strategy to not just transport passengers, but to heavily promote trade and tourism between the two countries. Daniel Kijo, in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
Well, shifting focus to sports and starting first with the World Athletic Championship that's all set to kick off today, with over 2,000 athletes from 202 countries taking part over 9 days of what could be a record-breaking action. The 19th edition of the World Athletic Championship marks Hungary's debut as host of the premier athletic event. A total of 28 athletes from Indian contingent will participate in the World Athletic Championship in Budapest. Indian javelin thrower Kishore Jaina received his visa to travel to Hungary, paving the way for him to compete at the World Athletic Championship in Budapest. Jaina was given an appointment by the Hungary embassy. Confirming the development, Athletic Federation of India said that his visa has been cleared after his appointment on Friday. Kishore Jaina will leave for Budapest on Sunday. On to cricket, India beat Ireland by 2 runs via the DLS method, that's the Duckworth-Lewis method, to take a 1 lead in the 3-match series in Dublin on Friday. India were 47 for 2 in 6.5 overs in chase of 140 runs when rain interrupted the game and forced it to be called off. Earlier pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah as captain made a splendid comeback as India restricted Ireland to 139 for 7 in 20 overs. Leading his side on his comeback after an 11-month layoff, Bumrah claimed 2 wickets. Fellow pacer Prashid Krishna, who made his debut, along with spinner Ravi Bishnoi, also backed 2 wickets each. For Ireland, Barry McCarthy scored an unbeaten 51 of 33. The second match of the T20 series will be played on Sunday in Dublin. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and also on Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Anil Thomas. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.